Yeah, and if my internet goes at any point, Paloma, could you please say so? In case I'm just talking to my screen, which actually is a more normal situation. So yeah, waffling aside, my name is Victoria. I'm also based in Berlin. I'm a Pi Ladies organizer as well. And I'm going to talk tonight about networking for introverts, or as I also like to call it, networking is actually really good for you, even if you think it is your worst nightmare. So let's start with some definitions of terms. What is an introvert? There are lots of different definitions of introversion, but the one that I prefer the most is that an introvert is someone who gets their energy from being alone. And it's not like we don't like people or we never like to have any social interaction. It's more we prefer specific kinds of interaction, usually one-to-one, and then just not so much, please. And it's also worth pointing out very shortly that there are actually different types of introverts. And if you're interested in your introvert type, you can do this very unscientific test called the Myers-Briggs test or something like this. I did this some years ago when I discovered that I was an introvert because I didn't know before. But as a side note, my introvert type often comes across as extroverted because we're very passionate, but actually I'm an introvert. So that's an introvert. And then a network, what networking is that networking involves talking to other people, often a lot of people, in order to get something done. And this something could be getting a new job, finding team members, getting some new information. My focus this evening will be the job search because that's where my mind is at. That's where my mind is at right now. So you would think with these two different definitions that introverts and networking would not be at all compatible. However, I would say that the algorithm is a little bit more complex than that. And if this looks a bit overwhelming to you, don't worry about it. I will explain as we go through. So firstly, I'd like to talk about why networking works for me personally as an introvert. I find networking more personal, especially in the job search. I would rather reach out to someone who I know and ask them about a possible job in their company than apply to some anonymous position on LinkedIn where there's already been 300 plus applicants. For me, having a network then is super helpful because I can have this one-to-one interaction, which I prefer. Your network provides a lot of support, both professionally and emotionally. For myself, I was unemployed for the whole of 2020 because 2020. And towards the end of the year, I was really struggling with my mental health. And it was, I reached out way too late to my community. But when I did, the support was just really overwhelming. And I was just so emotional about how much lovely support I was getting. And now, this year, as a rule, I reach out to my community for a chat once or twice a week, even though I kind of try to put these things off, thinking that I won't like them. In the end, I know that they definitely put me in a better mood. And another reason to have a network is that it's exponential. And by that, I mean, you get one contact, which leads to another contact, which leads to another contact, and maybe then they know someone. And so it just grows and grows and grows. And this is also very cool because then you can, out of your huge community, out of your huge network, you can select the people who help you the most, who know something about a specific thing. It's for me, I use it as a kind of source of information. It's really awesome what you can learn through your network. So how do you do this? If we think about the practical side, firstly, choose your platform. I use LinkedIn mostly, Twitter increasingly less. I'm on PyLady Slack every day. There are other platforms, of course. There are many social medias nowadays. Just choose the ones that ones that you feel comfortable with, which relates also to my second point. Start small. You don't have to have 600 plus contacts on LinkedIn overnight. You can just have one or two, and then it just grows and grows and grows. Yeah, and just do the amount that you feel is the right level for you. And then finally, boundaries. Boundaries are anyway important, but especially important for introverts. And this can take many different forms. But for me, the relevant question in this context is, how much is too much interaction? For example, one of my personal rules is I always leave a meetup at 9 because I like to go to bed early. How many meetups do you want to do a month as a introvert? Because we also need a lot of time to recharge afterwards. Beware of draining people, because introverts tend to be empaths, and empaths tend to sometimes attract to draining people. And by draining people, I mean someone who you feel very tired and sometimes ill after you talk to them. Be very clear for yourself who those people are, and reduce contact. And another thing that a co-organizer mentioned yesterday is that only share as much information that you feel comfortable with as well. So again, it's boundaries. Keep clear what is important for you and follow that. So I hope now this algorithm is a little bit clearer. So if your community is less than or equal to the maximum number of people who you feel comfortable talking to, and the platform you use is safe or it's comfortable for you, and your boundaries are in place, then I would say networking is okay. But if none of these are in place for me, then I leave the situation. I feel very comfortable doing that nowadays. So that's it from me. I hope now my fellow introverts will go into the world and amaze them with their introversion. If you need to contact me, you can. I'm not so much on Twitter nowadays. I'm more on LinkedIn, and I'm always in PyLady Slack. So I will put my LinkedIn profile in the chat. So then you have that link should you want to reach out to me. And other than that, thank you so much. And I'm really looking forward to automated testing now. That's it from me.